It is week 1 in the NFL, and the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence have a chance to make a statement. What is that statement? Find out here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
She's exactly right. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. We thank you, and you can find us on YouTube. You can also find us wherever you listen to your audio podcast, and make sure you tap in so you do not miss an episode of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase Locked On NFL, one word, lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us. We appreciate you very, very much. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to land this thing by telling you a score prediction in segment 3. It's going to take special players, a special player, and special teams. I'll tell you exactly what that is. Segment 2, we'll talk about speed killers. So many people talking about speed kills. Well, there's some speed killers on the Jaguars. We'll tell you how they have to do that. And in segment 1, where we're going to start this thing off, we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence making a statement. Yeah, man. So much has been talked about ever since 2021 when Trevor Lawrence was drafted about who he is and what he is. I remember the debates raging. Trent Dilfer said some things and people got all upset. Turns out some of the things that Trent Dilfer said were true. Trevor needed to be acclimated to the NFL, and some of the things that he probably was taught at Clemson weren't conducive to him doing that. Shout out to Clemson. I ain't trying to knock them down, but it is what it is, right? He looked a lot better in college than he had in the NFL early on. Much of that can be attributed to team building and the things that have been going on around him. Have the Jaguars improved the offensive line and the wide receiver core enough for Trevor Lawrence to really, really show his skill set and show what he is? That's the question that has to be answered. I'm going to give you a definitive yes, they have. And the reason why I'm going to say that has also a lot to do with their opponent. I don't think Miami will present the problems that will show whether or not the Jaguars are still porous along the offensive line and whether the interior of the line won't work. I just believe that Mitch Morse at center is enough of an upgrade. That's funny to say it that way because everyone thinks that anything is an upgrade over Luke Fortner. I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that you're lying about that if you feel that way. You're not. Luke Fortner was bad at center. I do believe Mitch Morse, he's a pro's pro, has been around, has seen it, can make the line calls, and then just won't get pushed around and bullied. I saw some promise from the Jaguars left side of their offensive line in both game 2 and game 3 of the preseason, or was it game 1 and game 3 of the preseason? Whenever the starters were out there and it seemed like Travis Etienne got loose a little bit, I saw a little bit of promise with the athletic Ezra Cleveland and the big bully Cam Robinson on the left side. I think the left side collectively may be better than the right side, and that's only because I'm not super high on Brandon Sheriff at this point in his career, even though I think Anton Harrison is the best lineman on the team. So the offensive line, I believe, won't have that much of a problem with Miami because I think Miami's defensive line is either banged up, you got guys coming back from injury, or you got older guys on that team. So I do believe that the Jaguars have improved there. The wide receiver core has definitely improved, and even the ones who are already here, like Evan Ingram, I think, has gotten better. I saw it a little bit in training camp. I saw it in preseason. If you got a fantasy football team, it might not hurt you to put him either at tight end or in the slot because I think he's going to get a lot of work from Trevor Lawrence. The running game should improve. If the running game improves, it opens up the windows on the defense, and it also opens up the playbook for whoever's going to call plays, whether it's a combination of Doug Peterson, the head coach, or Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator. And I think those wide receivers as a whole they're bigger. They won't get knocked off of their line. They did not sacrifice speed for size because Brian Thomas Jr. is 6'3", and he's faster than anybody who was on the Jaguars wide receiver core, maybe even on the team last year. Gabe Davis is a pro who knows how to find the spots in the middle of the field and sit down in those hash marks. And then they're getting a healthy, hungry version of Christian Kirk, a little bit banged up, but it's nothing that's going to really keep him out of the game. I look for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be ready and equipped and to not let or have talent or depth or any of that stuff be the reason why you're picking against them. So it all comes down to the man of the hour, and that is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor had a real good camp, a really, really good preseason. And I know I'm not going to put everything on one game because anybody that doesn't like Trevor Lawrence, they had the chance to see the game that he played last year in Houston. They had a chance to see how he was playing in other games. They've seen him in playoff games. The Chargers game from a couple of years ago, you saw the bad Trevor, and then you saw the good Trevor in the second half. They have seen this kid enough to know that he is capable of living up to a lot of the hype. The issue with Trevor has always been, can he do it consistently? And I've used the Jay Cutler analogy. I don't think he's Jay Cutler in terms of how he plays, but I've used that analogy several times because there are times when you see Jay Cutler going head-to-head against Aaron Rodgers and you couldn't tell the difference. And then there were times you saw Jay Cutler going head-to-head against somebody else that wasn't very good and you couldn't tell the difference. You have to close that up. You have to be consistent. People have to know a baseline, like your worst day is a solid day, right? It can't be a bad day where you're turning the ball over, where you're trying to do too much, where you don't trust. And this is what Trevor did. He didn't trust people. It's hard to trust people when you're running for your life. And that just speeds up the entire process and things just start looking a little bit out of sorts. So that's where the ball gets dropped. That's where changing the play at the line because you know it's not going to work and then you doing something and nobody else knows what you're doing. He's done that a few times. That's where the desperation around the goal line comes in and you're trying to force stuff because you're trying to be a hero. You don't have to do that now. You do not have to be a hero. In preseason, I said Trevor needs to be Troy Aikman. Probably throw it a little bit more than Dallas used to, but that's exactly what I think he has to do. He has to lead. He has to be a calming influence. Those guys have to turn around if things get tough and you say, we got it. Come on, let's just stay who we are. Don't get to the point where you're like, I got it. Because when you think I got it, that's when things get totally out of whack. He can make a statement. It's just one game. But trust me, if the one game is a bad game, the people that want to criticize him are going to criticize him. Therefore, the one game that's I believe is going to be a very good game is going to be a reason for the people that believe in Trevor Lawrence to stand up and scream from the rafters, I told you. It's all hyperbole either way, but I want to be on the good side of it, and I want to dictate how the narratives are by pointing out that he's playing well as opposed to spending an entire week defending why he didn't play well. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, has a chance and an opportunity here to, at least for a week, quiet his critics. We ain't going to quiet the critics until we stop people on defense. Everybody has been talking about the speed of the Miami Dolphins. Well, we got some speed killers. Are they faster than the dudes they're trying to stop? Not necessarily, but there's a way you can beat speed, something called physicality. We'll discuss that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn. I've opened 2 small businesses and I'm on my 3rd now. I'm telling you, I couldn't have done it without LinkedIn because I was so focused on regulations and permits and handling things with the contractor, I forgot I actually needed employees. LinkedIn took care of that for me, and they could take care of it for you too, because it's not just a job board. It's where over 70% of LinkedIn users, they don't even use other job sites. So you're looking in the wrong place if you're not on LinkedIn. Here's what you have to do. You have to go to where the people are. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Flying along here on Football Friday here in Jacksonville and around the National Football League. The league got off to a roaring start last night with a thrilling game in Kansas City between the Ravens and the Chiefs. You can catch all the analysis about that over at the new Locked On NFL. It's here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the madman, and he is a madman, trust me, and y'all know this too. Tyler Rowland, he kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso, and then stop by the barbershop. That's right here with me, Tony Wiggins, for some real NFL talk. And in the Locked On and local experts, when they come on, man, they give you unprecedented NFL insight because they know it better than anybody else. Hot topics, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL. It's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins, that's me, your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. So ever since this game was announced as the first game, I've been a little bit afraid because the Jaguars are playing a new defense. And one of the reasons I'll explain that I feel that way is because whenever you get playing a team that has all of that speed, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. You can play well all game, and just have 4 little miscommunications and you give up 28 points because they can make something out of nothing. They got a track team over there. They got Devin A-Chain, and then they drafted a kid, Jalen Wright. They say might be as good at running between the tackles as anybody else. So A-Chain may get some snaps at receiver or in the slot. That's all we need with him out there having to guard him in an open field because they already have Jalen Waddle and, oh, by the way, Tyreek Hill, who's the top 3 player in the National Football League. So that's a lot of stuff for you to be wary about. Until you look back at some Monday night games like last year, I think it was Sunday night when it may have been Thursday night when the Dolphins played the Titans, who weren't very good, but they were still under the old coaching staff who had a physicality identity, right? And you look at the Buffalo game that they played in the playoffs, another team, physical. I think it was a Buffalo game they played in the playoffs. But anyway, whoever they played in the playoffs when the Dolphins lost, go back and look at the games that they lost last year, and you'll see that there's a commonality, if that's a word, but there's a common theme in all of those games. You got to bust them in the mouth. That's how you kill speed. So I look at the Jaguars and I say, well, schematically, they're not going to just sit back like the Jaguars have over the last couple of years where they just kind of read and react to everything. And they probably were running a system that didn't really fit their players very, very good, right? So now with Ryan Nielsen wanting to get right up on people and get all up in their business and get all up in their face, what you're going to see is a little bit more, hey, man, it's just me and you. The Jaguars are going to try to take that line of scrimmage when they're on defense, and I think they're going to be able to do that because the Dolphins, quite frankly, are either banged up, young and inexperienced, moving guys around. I got Liam Eichenberg playing right guard. Terron Armstead, if he can stay healthy, is going to be at left tackle. I think you just got to go out and beat them up early. In fact, if I'm the Jaguars and I win the coin toss, I won't even take the ball. I kick it off, and I challenge my defense to go establish that dominance early. Go punch them. Even if they score 3, if they drive and get 7, that's all right. Take data. You don't want them to do that, obviously, but the one thing you can do is you can start hitting them in the stomach. Not literally hit them in the stomach. I mean, swinging body punches. Establish that this is going to be a physical game. Keep everything in front of you and tackle well. Even if they convert some first downs, it's okay. I believe the physical part of this game will be what can cumulatively add up and add up. Now, the Jaguars are going to have to keep up on offense. They're going to have to keep up on offense. They're going to have some other things happen on special teams and that's something we'll talk about in a little bit. But I do believe that there is a pathway to victory for Jacksonville that doesn't require them to score 38 points. You have to be able to sustain early. You have to stick with physicality. You got to wear them out. You got to make them sick of blocking you, sick of trying to tackle you, sick of dealing with you. But you have to do it in a controlled manner where you don't break discipline and get stupid penalties. Hitting afterwards, pushing guys face mask. Like, be about it, but don't act like it, right? Don't have a bunch of bravado with it. Just be physical. I mentioned this yesterday when I was doing the Locked On NFL show with Chris Carter. I said physicality is a mindset that you don't have to remind yourself that's what you are or who you want to be. It's what you are when you wake up. It's not like you're going to leave your keys. Let me go find my physicality. Like you leave your keys or your cigarette lighter or something like, and your pet. No. Just as sure as your skin looks like it does, that's your physicality right there. This is who you are. You don't have to look for it. You don't have to look in the mirror. You just have to be it. And I think the Jaguars, with the way that they've built this team, with defensive lines, a defensive line that looks very much like a Trent Baalke built defensive line, linebackers that have played a lot, have played it together enough, and I'm going to include 3 of them because they have 3 starters, and it depends on situation. Of course, Foye is the starter, Foye Oluokun. But depending on the situation, according to Doug Peterson, that's where you either go with Chad Muma or Devin Lloyd. Sometimes going with even 3 linebackers. I doubt very seriously you see 3 linebackers on the field against Miami. I think they're going to go with an extra DB. I think they'll probably start that game with Darnell Savage in the slot and have Antonio Johnson lined up in the back with Andre Sisco. I think they'll go 4-2-5 most of the time while they're trying to establish this stuff. But they're going to have dudes that can tackle. Both Johnson and Savage can both tackle very, very well and are super, super aggressive players. So I am of the firm. I honestly can tell you, I would kick the ball off and I would tell my defense to get started. See, if you kick the ball off first, that means your defense might get more possessions. And you can start your physicality. You can start it early. That's what I do. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to do that, but that's exactly what Tony Wiggins would do. I would start off on defense, and I'd say, show me what you got. Show me what you got. And I'd immediately start doing all of the things to wear them out. No matter how fast the team is, there's a way you can beat speed. You beat speed with physicality. You make them pay for real estate. You jam them at the line. That's risky. I know it's very, very risky. Because if you don't get your hands on Tyreek or Waddle, they can beat you. They can go 80. You have to be very, very selective when you do that. I would do that in short fields. I play man-to-man. If they get in the red zone, I go bump and run man-to-man, and I would make them actually, because they don't have a whole bunch of room to kill you with that. And then the back line becomes like the 12th man on the field for you. So there's a way it can all work. One thing that can work is if the line gets penetration, not just from the edge, but also in the twist game. Tua's not very tall. The Jaguars have very long and lengthy defensive linemen. Get in his way, disrupt his passing lanes, make him have to change his arm angles, make him hold the ball a little bit longer than he wants to hold the ball. And then you ain't got to worry about Tyreek Hill and those guys beating you deep because Tua won't have time to get it to him. It's why I think the Jaguars have a real legitimate shot this weekend. Some of the other things that have to happen, you have to have a special player or two. I'm going to give you the guy that I think is going to be a special player in this game. And I think he'll have an impact from the line of scrimmage. And I think he'll have an impact in special teams to go along with Cam Little and the punter, Logan Cook. We're going to talk about who I think it is. I'll tell you right now, his name is Parker Washington. But I'll tell you exactly how I think Parker Washington can impact this game with a minimal amount of touches, and how the special teams can also complement the Jaguars so they can get out of South Florida with a victory. I'll get all of that in segment 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. You know what time it is, man? It's time for PrizePicks, man. And y'all know all about PrizePicks and what it is. It is the number one. That's right, the number one daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. And all you got to do, man, is look at the projections and pick more or less. And you do that on between 2 and 6 stat projections, and then you watch all of that Skrilla roll in. Want to play PrizePicks alongside Drewski, Joe Button, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find them in community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in PrizePicks. All you got to do is download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's the code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win, man, to receive the $50. It's a bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. Run your game. Ain't running no game here on Locked On Jaguars. What we're doing is just telling you about the game. That is Sunday. It is game 1. We are finally here. Man, it feels like it took a long time because generally what happens is during the period where you go from training camp to preseason. You can't wait till the first preseason game. And then about halftime of the first preseason game, you're like, okay, put everybody in bubble wrap. And now I want to just get to the regular season. Doesn't really work like that. It just feels like it takes forever to get to this point. Well, we are here. I know a contingent of people that may be traveling to South Florida. Be safe. It looks like it's going to be real wet. Make sure you travel safely. But as long as those 53 guys and that coaching staff understands what they need to do, I think you're going to be very, very happy with this result. I'm going to pick the Jaguars to win this game, and I'm not being biased. Y'all know me better than that here on Locked On Jaguars. I do not do that. I think Jacksonville wins this game 31-20. 31-20. I think you see offensive efficiency and balance from Jacksonville. I think they may bend a little bit in terms of what they give up with Miami, but after bending, they won't break, and they'll force Miami to kick a bunch of field goals, and they'll force Miami to have a bunch of missed opportunities. I think the Jaguars turn them over twice. Somebody gets a tip pick, and I think there's a fumble. I think Jacksonville's going to be Johnny on the spot. And here's what I think will happen. They're going to have a couple of big plays on special teams, and I think the dude that might deliver them is Parker Washington. Parker's going to probably have more touches than he had last year, but because they have so many other players, we mentioned Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, of course, the rookie Brian Thomas Jr. and Evan Ingram, you can't get, and then they play a lot of ETN in the passing game. Of course, Tank Bigsby's going to get his snaps. You're not going to be able to, Luke Farrell catches a ball every now and then. So when you look at Parker Washington, you're talking about maybe the fifth, sixth option. I think they're going to have some plays for him where it's probably going to catch Miami by surprise. He's very, very hard to tackle. He's going to be even more difficult to tackle if it's wet. And I think the tree trunk legs and the way he runs, he kind of turns into a running back when he gets the ball in his hands. I think he can account for a couple of first downs. And then on special teams on the kickoffs, I think it'll be him and Tank Bigsby, or maybe even Devin Duvernay, who will be back there. I believe Parker Washington has a chance because he's very, very sure-handed. I think he's going to have a serious chance along with Devin Duvernay and even maybe Tank Bigsby to take a kick return and take that thing and really, really change field position. Maybe even get a score from someone out of special teams. That will be huge for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then it will also it'll help establish the identity of a team. Usually teams that play with really, really good active defense, they always find a way also to get really, really big integral plays from guys that play special teams. I want the Jaguars to be that type of team. Opportunistic, create turnovers. I think through the first 7 or 8 weeks last year, they were either top 2 in turnovers created. And then those turnovers started to go away and then they started losing. So I really, really do think, and I really believe that the Jaguars are going to win this game. They're going to win it convincingly. Trevor Lawrence is going to make a statement. The defense is going to let you know that this new system, they've arrived, and they're not going to get killed by speed. They're going to be the speed killers. Also, in the kicking game, Logan Cook is going to be pinning the Miami Dolphins inside their 10-yard line. I think that happens. And Cam Little, there's not going to be a kick that the Jaguars are afraid to go after or go for because the kid has a lively leg and he can hit it from 55 easily. All of those things. Just imagine about the field goals the Jaguars missed last year in the game against Cleveland. Some of the other games where if they just made those field goals, man, they would have won those close games. And usually when you win those close games, it teaches you and gives you a little bit of a lesson, and it puts into your DNA that you can win games even when you don't totally do everything the right way. The improved offensive line for this football team, because of Mitch Morse and because of the health, this is the first time in a while they're going to actually roll out there with 5 dudes that they want to be on the field at the same time. It might be small. It might not be a tremendous difference, but I think all you need, and this we saw last night in the Monday night game, all you need is this much, right? A toe. A little bit of difference. It is a game of inches. It's a game of tenths and 20th of a second where something either good or bad happens, right? And a lot of times when you're not strong at the point of attack, when you're mixing and matching a bunch of linemen, you always seem like you can't get right because you're a minute late or a second late or a half a fraction late. I think those things go away as you get the guys on the field that you want on the field, as things get a little bit tighter, as the I wouldn't call it desperation, but the intentional part of staying in the moment, not necessarily desperate, but being motivated. All right. I think it's going to help the Jacksonville Jaguars. I really do think it's going to get off to a good start, put this team off to a very, very good start, give them a little bit of an identity, something to build on. And then they'll come home next week and they'll play a tough game against Cleveland. I absolutely believe, we got a little breaking news. Jalen Ramsey, who is it? I think Jalen Ramsey got an extension. Let me look. I got breaking news coming in right now here. Yeah. Evidently, Jalen Ramsey got an extension in Miami. It's a little bit ironic that he gets an extension right before he plays against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So apparently, Jalen Ramsey and the Dolphins are still doing things right before the season starts with one of their best players. That's going to be fun, too, to see Jalen Ramsey. I tell you what, if one of those receivers gets behind Jalen Ramsey and scores a touchdown, and they win, I'm telling you, man, y'all are going to be ecstatic. This place will go crazy because anytime Jalen does something that's not really, really good, Jaguar fans already get happy. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to this game this weekend and all the games around the National Football League. You're going to have 16 winners and 16 losers, and I hope the Jacksonville Jaguars is one of those teams that win. The new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso. And then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented insight in the NFL. Hot opinions and topics, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the Madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Good luck. I don't think it's going to be luck. I think it's just going to be a chance to show who you are, show what you've been working on, and show that you're on the right track for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Make sure you tap in each and every day. We'll be here for a postcast immediately following the game. Since it's a road game, it'll probably happen within 15 minutes of the end of the game. Make sure you tap in to Locked On Jaguars wherever you get your podcast. Until then, you guys take care. We'll see you next time.